right. So we're here with Kerry Stratford, and you and I met through Local First Arizona, I believe.
Yes,
And
that's true.
I remember we were talking, and I'd made some comment about Herb Stratford, and if you were related, and you like, I know the guy.
Yeah.
Being your husband.
Yes.
But then what I found out, because I thought, because I knew his name, I thought he was the one, not that he isn't, but he was the one doing all this work in downtown and just really driving all this. I did not realize until I talked with you that you have been such a huge part of this town for decades. And I got to share that story is what I said.
Okay.
Here we go. So you are from Tucson.
I'm born in Tucson, yes.
Okay.
A native. So my parents moved here from Minneapolis in the 50s. And I was born here and remember fondly coming downtown and shopping at Hockamy's and Montgomery Ward's and all the great shops, Steinfeld, all the great shops and places down here. So, but I was pretty little when that happened, and everything moved to Elcon and
the big mall on the outskirts of town.
That's right. So,
and then U of A, right?
Went to the U of A. Herb and I met at the U of A.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
What class? Was it in class? Or
Yeah,
was it?
we met in class, 19th century European art history.
That, I think most people take 19th century European art history to meet their significant other.
Yeah.
That's probably, not sure what else you might.
Yeah. So, yeah, we met there. And then we started doing projects together. And a lot of our first projects were when we were still in school and when we got out of school right downtown.
What was something you did while you're still in school?
We did a magazine that connected all of the departments in the art department at the U of A. It showcased artists' work from all of the different departments, which the art department had never done.
Roughly, what time frame was this?
Late 80s.
So there's no technology like we have today.
No.
This is like actual work.
Yeah, it was work. And then we turned, Herb and I did the work for a couple of years, and then we turned it into an internship. And for 10 years, we ran internships where we oversaw students who were an editor and a designer of this publication. And then we got all the printing donated and all that for the department. So it was a good overview of the work that the department was turning out at that time.
Well, that sort of, I was going to ask some of the questions about how you got into what you're doing, professionally. Seems like that might have been a good start.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was taking visual communications classes and got a degree in that. Herb was a photography major.
Okay.
And this magazine was called Chromophobia because it was black and white. We couldn't afford to print in color. And chromophobia means fear of color.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's what the creativity, right? How do you take something that you have a lack and you turn it into a positive? That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Let's talk a little bit about Caliber. Because was this your creation?
So I started my business right out of college because a couple of the places I really wanted to work weren't hiring. So I started my business and had two business partners. I eventually bought them out and merged with a partner that I'm partnered with right now, Linda Welter. So she and I created the Caliber Group when we merged together and started working together. And so you do a lot of, as we talked about storytelling, but you help with branding and marketing and getting the word out about what you do in this environment, right? We do. We're a full service brand marketing, public relations, and digital firm. And so we do everything you can imagine for branding, social media, public relations, crisis communications, digital. And for all of our clients, we do a lot of a mix of all of those things, an integrated amount of those things.
I'm sure it's probably one of those things that they might hire you to do job A, and then a few years later, you're sort of integral into their growth and their strategy. And hey, we just had this come out. We need to manage this crisis. How do we do that? Oh, right. We can do that for you too.
So people come to us because they have a crisis. They have an opportunity. They have a need, or maybe it's a challenge. Maybe they have a new competitor. So they come to us with a need like that, and then it turns into something more usually. So,
I'd been working with the Festival of Books for years, and then of course in these conversations, you're like, oh, when they first started, I helped to create that brand and that logo.
Yes.
You've been there since the beginning.
Yeah, they called me about, I don't know, 4 months before the very first one and said, oh no, we have a logo, but we don't know what to do with it and we need a brand. And so we quickly whipped
That's
up.
like everything you do at once, right? Crisis, brand, and all of it. And you have 4 months.
Yeah, it was good. And then we created the whole brand and all the pieces and parts that became, sort of the foundation for the festival. And that festival became like the third or fourth largest in the country in the second or third year. So it was a big deal.
And a couple of 100,000+ people on the U of A mall for 2 days.
Yeah. So you and I were both Festival Books volunteers and didn't even know it.
Yeah.
So.
I started the very first day as a volunteer. I just showed up, I volunteered, showed up, and haven't left. But you were there. You beat me by 4 months.
Yeah.
And probably a lot more time and energy too to get that going. And you've worked with so many. I was looking at your company's website. I mean, so many iconic brands in Tucson. Your website is Caliber Group Tucson?
CaliberGroup.com.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you go there and you can just see all of these not just companies, but efforts and organizations. I mean, it seems like Caliber is just sort of synonymous with Tucson and cool things.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate to work with a lot of the iconic brands in Tucson and good brands that are doing amazing things for our community, nonprofit, for-profit, and we've been fortunate. And
Thrive, now that's one of the newer ones that I know of that we haven't talked on this show about, but the Thrive in Tucson campaign.
Yeah, that's Sun Corridor has a new campaign called Thrive in Tucson, and it's really to attract younger folks to Tucson and to let them see what the lifestyle is about and what the cost of living is and how they can come here. And there's all kinds of complements of things that they're going to want to do outside, recreation and events. And
well, you created or found or put together a fabulous cost of living calculator. So that how much do I make in this city and how much am I going to make in Tucson and what does that get me? Right.
Yeah. That has been added to the website so that people can really see.
And it's honest. It's not like, oh, you can have a mansion here. It's like, it's honest. Hey, you know what? You're going to have to do with a little bit less here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's pretty good.
I was very fast. I've used that with multiple people to share with them, just to give them an idea. I tend to test it out first to see what it's going to say.
Okay.
Before you
do it.
Send it out to them. But I do share regardless. So take a step back. I skipped a whole bunch of this. You're a youngster downtown hanging out at Montgomery Ward's and Hockamee's. Then you go to the U of A.
Yep.
You meet your future husband. You do some cool stuff there. And you graduated at a time when a lot of the bright people from the U of A who graduated left town.
It's true.
And you and Herb, you stayed.
Yeah.
Why?
When I graduated, Herb still had a year left in school. And then when he graduated, I had a business that started and we had already ingrained ourselves in downtown life. We were ingrained in collective galleries in town. Along this very street that we're sitting in front of here. We're
recording here in the Tucson Gallery Studio, so we're on Congress and 5th, right across from Hotel Congress.
Yep. And so we just, it was a place we wanted to be, a place we had a lot of contacts, and it was a really creative time. We were reviving artist live workspaces down here, and so it was fun. We were doing performance art nights in some of the hotel or some of the restaurants and doing all kinds of really creative and cool things. There was a great creative community here at that time.
There wasn't a lot going on in downtown outside of that. I mean, you were driving a lot of that traffic. I mean, you had Hotel Congress, but you didn't have the number of destination restaurants that we have now. And the Fox Theater wasn't even
it was
really
boarded up at the time. Yeah. No, there was people tend to think that it was all boarded up, but right across the street was one of our favorite places, which was the Arts District Bookstore. Jay Kariva, it was a clothing shop that a friend of ours had that was right there in the Congress. So there was a lot of really cool things happening. Berta Wright, lots of really cool shops.
Do you remember the name of the clothing store?
Yeah, Jay Kariva.
Jay Kariva? Okay. Was it new clothing or was it like a thrift store?
It was new.
Okay.
Very cool, hip kept closed at the time. So
Okay.
yeah, and Berta Wright, a lot of art and things. So this street had a lot of things happening on it. People like to say that it was boarded up, but it actually wasn't. You know, one of the things that we're very fortunate in Tucson is that we had a lot of very creative people who had restaurants and shops along Congress, and it had they paid rent, and so these tenants got the rent. They didn't sell the building, tear it down to build something else. I remember when some folks from Tempe came down at one point, and they're like, "Oh, we wish we would have still have a street like this in Tempe, but we tore all of ours down."
Yeah, I've heard that from a couple of people. Like with Tucson's growth and development.
But the people that kept this open are all the artists and all the the great restaurateurs. Cafe Magritte was one of our favorite restaurants. There was amazing restaurants down here. So.
Who was coming down here at the time? Was it the artist community, or was it driving traffic?
Herb worked for what was called the Arts District Partnership, and their charge was to create restoration or create revitalization through using art as an agent of change.
Okay.
And so they were really at the forefront of doing that, and they started something called Downtown Saturday Nights. 10,000 people were coming down here on Saturday. So when they revitalized it and called it Downtown Saturdays, I mean, that was something that was happening back in the 90s. So we were doing brown bag lunches in the library plaza. There was we were doing phantom galleries. So whenever a shop would close, we'd turn it into a gallery. So I was on the public art committee for the Tucson People Arts Council, and we would always enliven any space that was closed.
My first experience with downtown, I'd moved here in '93, and it probably was a few years after that. And it was a fundraiser for probably the Boys and Girls Club or Big Brothers Big Sisters, one of those two. And it was a progressive dinner and walking tour. That like solidified my time here in Tucson. Like, I'm staying. You know, I didn't know that I was necessarily going to leave if without that tour, but I saw so many cool places and just really got a vibe that I didn't know existed because I hadn't come down here much. There were boarded up buildings and such, but I think, and that's what I do remember. But now as you're talking about it, I do remember also in between that there was life.
Oh yeah,
right.
Definitely.
We might have had some big stuff that wasn't open, but we had a lot of things that were. We had quantity as well as quality. We just didn't have the size. We got a fly buzzing around the studio here. He wants to be on the show. Well, that's why we have the video, so you can.
But when we started working on the Fox, of course, that was the goal, right? We had Congress and the Rialto bordering this end. You needed the Fox. You needed to fill it in, and that's what the hope was. Yeah. And that's happening. So. Well,
and then that kind of gets me to the next section here, which is this physical. It wasn't just philosophical and theoretical and artistic. You and her got into the physical and started reconstructing buildings and getting into places that had been boarded up and were not in great shape, like the Fox Theater. Yeah. The Fox Theater had 42 homeless people living in it, so it was not in great shape. And I understand a few animals and a few other some living creatures we just don't know how to identify.
Yeah, and the Julian Drew apartments over here, the bottom floor, we had a gallery that we moved into that one. It was a collective art gallery, kind of like what you're sitting in here now, and that is now Charles Stake. So I mean, there were things that we were building and bringing people down here. And it was at a time when people were still scared of all the one-way streets and they were thinking it was scary down here and, that sort of thing. But that's why you have to enliven a place so that people don't have to worry about those things. Yeah, it's they're still true. People still are concerned about coming downtown to some usually
respect.
Perception, not reality.
Usually. I mean, I think any community is going to have their challenges, and you can come down on any community across Tucson or the country and find issues on any given day. But I do think the perception of downtown, for those that haven't been down recently, it's always interesting, right? It's those that haven't been here that have that perception.
Right.
So how do you, like, I looked at your resume and you've been on all kinds of boards. You've been on alumni council. I mean, you've just, like, how do you find time to do all of this? Like, I mean, I think I'm a busy person, and then I look at your stuff. I'm like, man, I got to do more work.
We don't sleep. One of the things is that Herb and I, we work on projects together, and so we do that on the weekends and nights. And then, of course, my business partner and I are always busy and always giving back to the community with our time and supporting nonprofits and or sitting on boards and giving back to the community in that way. So, Linda Welter, my business partner, she's the president of the chamber right now, and I just stepped down as the chair, like you said, of the National Alumni Council for the U of A, and that's how we give back. We're doing that sort of thing all the time.
But it seems like when it doesn't seem like you're taking time off, you're just rotating your time to different causes.
Yeah.
Like some people, though, like I've served on boards. I just got off the Downtown Tucson Partnership Board. I'm taking a step back and kind of focusing on some of my other aspects. But it seems like you just go, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to move over to this challenge next. I mean, it just amazes me. You're like tireless. Are you a robot? Are you?
No, but sometimes I think I don't sleep, but I don't know.
What's anything? I mean, I'd love to talk more about Caliber because you've just gotten so many awards recently. One of your your partner who was in Biz Tucson, or
as the president of the chamber.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's like everywhere. Now that I know you and I know the name, and I've known her for years now, but it's like I see it everywhere. Yeah, you guys are doing a great job with that. You're branding yourselves by connecting yourselves with all these great organizations in Tucson. Yeah,
we're very fortunate to work with some great people and great brands.
Anything exciting coming up on the horizon that you can share with us, or usually you have too many NDAs? And you're like, well, I'm working on a really cool project which will be announced in 3 to 4 weeks.
No, we're always working on fun things. I mean, one of our newer clients is the Mosaic Quarter, and we're excited about that, which is the
sports complex down.
The new sports complex. Yeah. So that's an exciting project
that seems to tie in well with Thrive.
Yep. And then of course Sun Quarter, they're always looking. Yeah. They're always bringing new folks to Tucson. And
have you had any contact or any connections with the Sunshine Mile?
Haven't, okay. But I've been watching it. It's great, and have friends who are working on some of the restaurants and shops, and of course Damian Klinko is a good friend of ours. Okay, so he I know he's been involved in that. And
I have a feeling they would come calling for in the near future when they start to get some foundation there. Like, how do we get the word out that we're back and ready for business?
Yeah.
Oh man, well, Kerry, I feel like we just didn't even scratch the surface. Like, what can you come back another time, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any ways people can get a hold of you? Is it best through social media, Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. It's Kerry Stratford on Instagram. And LinkedIn for sure.
That's Kerry.
Kerry. Yep, the Irish spelling.
Okay.
And that's a great place to get in touch with me.
And if you want to do business with Caliber, just reach out to.
Yeah, we have on our website a contact form that you can send, and that comes to my business partner and I.
All right. Well, I appreciate all that you've done. And again, if you listen to this interview, you're thinking, wow, that's a lot, but we haven't even really touched about. I mean, every project she mentioned could be a show in and of itself. So we'll get you back, and we'll just keep plugging away at this, and maybe we'll have a series of we'll call it the Stratford Chronicles or something. Anyway, Kay, I appreciate all you do for Tucson. I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.